Hey guys, how's it going? So I just wanted to talk about the spectrum of this whole schizoid personality thing that's I've been talking about, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who feel like it's something that you're born with, that you can't. It's not something you really develop. It's something you just have. And because there was a comment not too long ago about somebody who said they started experiencing these feelings when they were around 16, 17. I don't remember the exact age, but they were in their teen years, and when they started saying they experiencing these symptoms, and it got me really thinking, because a lot of people kind of jumped on them saying, it's not something you're born with. It's not something you develop. It's something you're born with. You just kind of have these feelings. And I was thinking, because I always really felt the same way until I started actually really revisiting my younger years and thinking about the way things were for me. And it's kind of funny, reflecting on these kind of things. It kind of really changed my opinion, because I always felt the same way. It's not something you develop. It's how you are. It's who you are. But I've grown up my really young years. I mean, under 10. I'm 26 years old now. But it's like when I was under 10, I remember always having in school a lot of friends. I always seeked out these, and I always envied these popular individuals. I always wanted to have a lot of friends, and I always craved this social interaction, but just kind of life and growing up the way I did, being in these situations that I really shouldn't have been, experiencing things that people at that age really shouldn't have experienced, and going through things and seeing things, just kind of, I developed this, I don't want to say hatred, but like a reclusive nature, just kind of avoiding everything that I possibly could. I just kind of developed this personality of like hating human interaction, social interaction of any kind. Just felt so much more comfortable by myself, away from everything. A little more free, if you will. Like humanity started to feel like more of a cage than a need. That most people need a certain amount of social, or I'm sorry, a certain amount of human interaction in order to stay sane. But I just felt the opposite. I felt like the less I had, the more sane I actually was, and just the more comfortable. I don't want to say it was a real, it felt really unnatural just being around people. The more I was around people growing up, the older I got, it just felt so much more unnatural, the more fake I felt being around people growing up. And it just kind of developed, and I started to put on this mask that I've been talking about. The community has been referencing this thing called the mask, and I think that's really incredible, because it's really what it feels like. It's just a mask you put on so that other people won't see what's really going on. It's just easier to go through life without people berating you, and not necessarily in a negative way, because a lot of people will see, oh, this person's a freak, but a lot of people will coddle you, be like, oh, are you okay? And a lot of people like that is what really we're trying to avoid, is the coddling. Like, it's really hard to describe. I have a girlfriend now, and it's great. I really, really like her and everything. All of our dates are amazing and everything. She's an amazing person, and I definitely don't have any plans of leaving her or anything like that. But sometimes when I get into these feelings, like I have to have my alone time just to recuperate. Just to refresh my mask, if you will, my human mask. Just those times like that, she's always wondering what's wrong. She wants to be there for me, and she's always asking me if there's anything she can do, if there's anything she's doing wrong. And in a small way, that makes things worse, because living the way that we do, people like me are experiencing things the way that I do. They have to have their alone time. I need my alone time to recuperate, just to build myself back up and recover from all the human interaction I've had to have throughout the day, or whatever it was that I need to recover from. It's the only way to recover. Like for me personally, the life that I had growing up, I had to learn how to deal with things myself, because there was nothing else to bounce my emotions off of. I had to internalize everything, so it just became a way to survive pretty much, and that's what I'm used to. It's the only thing that can really help me when I get super depressed or super anxious. Anything to the extreme where something bad might happen, the only thing that can calm me down is me. And it's really hard for people in the outside world to understand that, with things out there like the DSM and all these really good psychologists, anything like that, diagnosing you with things like schizoid personality or schizotypal or depression, anything like that. It's really hard to read a book and judge what the author is thinking. You know, I made a comment on this not too long ago about that. There was somebody going around trying to say, oh, because in the community that's been kind of talking here on these videos, they've all been really supportive and all talking to each other, and it's amazing. It's half the reason I started this whole thing. But there's been a person going around saying, oh, you have ADD, you should talk to somebody about this because you don't have this disorder, you have ADD. I'm a third year psychology student, and it's like, you've probably learned a lot. You probably know a lot of technical terms that we don't, you know, but it's like, you know, we live with this. We know what it's like. We know what we feel, and we know what we don't feel, and we know what we identify with and what we don't identify with. And it's really, he kind of made the point that it's really irritating from somebody from his point of view, seeing somebody that's diagnosing themselves with something that they don't have. And it's totally understandable, but on the opposite end of the window, if you will, I won't say spectrum, but the window, the opposite end of the window, people that are getting diagnosed with things that they don't really feel that they have, it's just as irritating, you know, to see like a person who's supposed to be reading these people and diagnosing them with things, helping them, when they give them a diagnosis or something that they don't really have, or that they don't feel comfortable with, and start treating that, it's just as irritating as a person, like if I was a psychologist, you know, seeing somebody diagnosing themselves with something that they didn't have. It's the same irritation, like they get the same levels of irritation, if you will. But yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about, because it's really hard to diagnose somebody without truly knowing them, you know, spending time with them, even years in some cases, you know, to get to know a person, you know, sessions after sessions and hours of talking to a person, getting to know them before you make these kind of diagnoses. But like I said, they could be right, but that's not based off any real evidence or anything. It's just like reading something or seeing a video and they're diagnosing this. But that's just kind of a little tangent I went off on. The real purpose of this video, I wanted to talk about the spectrum of things. People feeling that it's not something you can really develop, which over the recent years I've been starting to change my opinion on that, because reflecting on my life and the way it has been, I feel like I was more developed than born with. Because I remember my early years, the earliest years I can remember, I was super sociable. I really seeked out that human interaction. You know, I wanted friends, and I liked being around friends, and I wanted to go hang out with the friends that I did have all the time. I mean, but, you know, slowly as getting older and older, I started to hate humanity, just avoiding everything, you know, just being by myself, and I was so much more comfortable. But like I said, I feel like it was more of the way that I grew up, the life that I had, you know, the parental situation, the guardian situation that I had, the parental situation that I had, everything, you know, from the way I was raised, the social life that I led, from the people that I was around, just everything accumulating into this, me would rather be a hermit, you know, living by myself and be totally content rather than putting on a mask and being uncomfortable and being out in social situations. I feel like I was more developed than I was born with. But I will say that I always had that feelings like there was something that just wasn't right. I was always more comfortable by myself. Always more comfortable by myself. And even though, like, you know, I grew up in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses, so I never really celebrated birthdays or any holidays or anything like that. Probably submitted to my situation now. But I just remember being really, really young, and even on birthdays that we did celebrate, when I would have friends over, the mornings of, you know, I'd be in my room playing with my Legos or whatever, you know, playing with the toys that I did have, and just be totally fine, and being really irritated when friends would come over and I'd have to go spend time with them, you know. I always had that feeling that something was off. So I could see both sides of the argument. It is something you're born with, but mine, it was developed. It was definitely something I was born with, because I always felt it, but I could deal with it. It didn't really bother me. But then again, maybe it was just that I was too young to understand it. But as I grew older, I started to understand it more, and I started to realize, you know, hey, I like being by myself. I don't want to see you. There's nothing wrong with you. I just really need I'm comfortable right here. I'm comfortable by myself reading a book, or comfortable watching YouTube videos, comfortable by myself playing guitar, anything like that. Comfortable by myself doing things. I don't really need you. It's a really hard voicing that opinion to someone without coming off as offensive, especially if you're friends with somebody or having friends like that, girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, any kind of friendship or relationship that you have. It's really hard voicing that without coming off as emotionally cold or distant or like a dick, pardon my language. But You know what I mean, though. It's just really hard expressing that in a voice. Like recently, with my girlfriend, it's been getting a little more serious. We've been talking about a little more serious life situations, like maybe getting an apartment together after I get out of the military, stuff like that. But it's and I'm totally fine with it. And she's been really supportive of the way I am, and she's comfortable. Well, I wouldn't say she's comfortable with it. She's really uncomfortable, but it's just hard to explain to people who don't understand what it's like, you know? Like, I really like her and I really like being around her, but there's these certain times, like with my new job and the things I've been doing recently, I deal with people all the time. And when I come home, I have to deal with a roommate and stuff like that, you know? So it's just constant people all the time, and I have no time to myself, no time to recuperate. And then I spend time with her. Nothing wrong with her. Absolutely nothing wrong with her and what she wants and what she needs and stuff like that. And I'm totally fine being there for her and stuff like that. But it's that sometimes I might come off as emotionally cold or distant, or, you know, kind of like a dick, pardon my language. But you know what I mean? It's just that constant pressure of being a people. And those of you who struggle with the things that I'm talking about will totally understand that. And if you don't understand it, it's definitely worth researching, because if you might have friends like that, and you never know. But it's very hard to explain. I had somebody ask me what, you know, if the things that I described in my videos, the things I talk about, if for anything like that the DSM describes as schizotypal. I'm sorry, not schizotypal. I apologize. What's the word? I just totally had a brain fart. Schizoid personality disorder. The things that the DSM, excuse me, the DSM describes as schizoid personality disorder. If what I experience is close to it, or if it's different anyways. And that's kind of wanted to talk about the spectrum, because it is very similar, very similar. But there are a lot of differences. Like for me, I can put on a mask and I can hang out. I could go to a straight on party for hours and nobody would know that there was anything, you know. Hey, look, I'm just another brick in the wall, just another party in person. Great. Nothing wrong with that. But on the inside, I'm just like, I really want to go home. I don't like this here. I'm really uncomfortable. I'm really anxious. I'm about to have a panic attack. But, you know, nobody would ever notice that. And with and the DSM, the way it describes it, it's a little bit different, in my opinion. I could be wrong here, but it really describes more of the person who really doesn't crave that kind of stuff, who really avoids that kind of stuff, and which I am like that on the inside. But on the outside, I'm a little bit more sociable. As you can tell, like these videos and stuff, I kind of have like a personality. I'm a little bit more bubbly than a person you would think with schizoid personality disorder would be. But like I said, that's just my mask. That's the years of experience I've had dealing with people. Even now being in the military, I deal with people all the time. I have a roommate, my job, I deal with people every day, and it's constant. I'm kind of forced to keep this mask on, so I've developed it. I'm 26 years old, so I have a lot of experience, you know, developing this mask, and I know how to use it and manipulate it, and I know what to say and how to act in certain situations. And people, you would never know, even psychologists, you would never know that there was anything actually going on inside. But on the inside, it's just like, I really need to go into my shell right now. I just need to recuperate. Just give me 5 minutes. If it's sleep, if it's watching a video, if it's playing a guitar, if it's just laying there in complete silence, that's all I need to recuperate and be fine. And that's what I mean, because there's people on the other end of the spectrum who somebody walks by and says hi, and they're overblown. They're done for the day. That's enough human interaction. That's all they need for the rest of the year. But with me, personally, like where I sit at in the spectrum, I feel like there's the people that somebody says hi to them and that's it. They're done. And then there's the people who can party all day, every day, and be totally fine. They just feel a little uncomfortable. Somewhere in there, I'm somewhere in the middle. For me, anyways. Like, I can go hang out with friends and stuff, especially if I feel like I've been neglecting them, or if they feel like if something going on with them they need to talk about. I'm totally there for them. I'm all about it, helping them and stuff. But I have to have my alone time. I have to have a period where it's nothing but me. Nobody texting me, nobody talking to me, nobody Skyping me, just me, and I can sit there in my own brain, in my own little world. Which kind of goes into the whole maladaptive daydreaming disorder, which you guys know what my opinion on that is. But I can go into my own little world and just sit there and be happy and be content and recuperate, almost like going to sleep for me. Like going to sleep and being by myself is just, the they lock like this, they mesh. But yeah, it's just so relaxing. I can't really describe it. It's just so free. It's like you're floating. It's just so comforting to be by yourself and alone and just not have to worry about anything involving people or anything involving life, really. But then you got the other end, whether there's these people knocking at your door, people texting you, people Skyping you, people saying, hey, let's go hang out, hey, let's go out to eat, stuff like that. Nothing wrong with what they're doing. Just for me, I have to have my alone time. So I feel like I sit somewhere in the middle, because I do go out with friends. I do like to, even. Sometimes I'm totally fine going out with them. If it's just dinner and I come back to my room, I'm totally fine. Extended periods, out in crowds or with people, it gets a little old and I will start to seem like I'm being a dick. I'll seem tired. I've just started telling people that I'm tired, but it really, I feel like there is a spectrum. It's not as black and white as it may seem sometimes. It's either you have it or you don't. You can have a lot of the symptoms. You know what? Let me rephrase that. I do feel like it is black and white. You either have it or you don't. But there is a spectrum of having it, if that makes any sense. Like, you can have what I have. You can feel the way I feel and still be out with people and stuff and be content. And then there's others who have what I have and feel what I feel, who can't be out with people and feel the same way. Some people feel the way I feel and have to stay that way. They have to stay completely alone in order to be happy. I use that term loosely, but in order to be content and, be fine to an extent. And then there's others who will need the very small, even if it's just somebody walking by to say hi. For me, I could live by myself with no human interaction as long as I seen outside my window that there was somebody walking around outside. I'd be fine. I would be totally fine. But I would have to say, if I was totally isolated, seeing no humans, eventually I would go crazy, because I am a human and that's what happens. But for others, they might even be fine not seeing any humans at all throughout their entire life, be fine living underground. They turn into something that lives underground. But you know what I'm saying? There is a spectrum there, whether people want to believe it or not, because I'm somewhere in the middle, and I've been on both sides. I've had months where I just don't want to see anybody, don't want to interact with anybody. And then I've had I remember an entire week I stayed at a friend's house one time and I was totally fine. Afterwards I came back and I was totally in the recuperative mode. Like, I sat in my room, didn't talk to anybody, nothing. People texted me, I didn't write them back, anything like that. I was definitely in a recuperative phase, but I've been on both sides of the spectrum. But like I said, I feel like mine was a little bit more just a little bit more developed, because I had those feelings since birth. Ever since my earliest memories I can remember, I was uncomfortable around people. But it kind of developed as I got older, in the situations I was in, the life I lived. I was homeless for a very long time. I've seen a lot of things at an age where I really shouldn't have. And just stuff like, it stacks, It kind of it helped develop. I'll say it helped develop the way I am now. But I definitely agree that there is a spectrum. And some people experience things worse, and some people barely experience them at all. But they can all have the same disorder, if you will, the same problems going on, the same symptoms. But yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about and voice my opinion a little bit and talk a little bit about. I'm sorry I'm stuttering a little bit. I've had a little bit to drink. I'm going to try to not show the logo. But yeah, also, that proves like another little bit of a point with people like me, or people experiencing what I have. The amount of emotional disconnection. I don't want to say I'm totally drunk, but I'm very along the lines of not being able to walk the straight line if I was to get pulled over, by a cop. Inebriated, whatever the word is you're looking to use. But even in this state, I'm able to talk somewhat clearly. Not too much out of the ordinary from what I would normally talk like, but whereas somebody else would be totally like, oh my God, whatever they do, however they are, acting differently. I can almost seem totally normal, like this just seems like my personality or whatever. Like I said, it's just the mask and a little bit of the alcohol, stuff like that that's talking. But you can kind of see the difference with somebody like me who's almost completely drunk, and just I can still talk like a human because there's no emotional involvement. One last point before I go, I just have to bring this up. So I always hear people say stuff like this all the time, like you have a couple or whatever, and one of them will cheat on the other one. They'll say, oh, I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing. That's total malarkey. That's in my opinion, being drunk just brings out who you really are. It really just, if you do something when you're drunk, then you think about it when you're not drunk. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it while you were drunk. Because being drunk doesn't force your body to do things that you wouldn't normally do. It's not like you're injecting yourself a race car driver and your body's a race car and the driver's just driving you and you have no say over what's happening. No, you're inebriated. You just have less control over what's happening. So if you do something while you're drunk, it's usually because you think about it on some level when you're not drunk. So I believe that people, like, if they're cheating or whatever, they're doing whatever they're doing while they're drunk, it's a little bit more of a window into their true self, you know, because I've been with a lot of people. They're amazing friends, but the second they get drunk, they're just totally different. They're just straight, either they're dicks or they're too kind, they're too all over whoever. If they have a partner, they're too this or that, you know, they change drastically, which I have no doubt alcohol will definitely change the way you normally act, but it won't change who you are. And you have to understand that difference. So, just a random point I wanted to throw out there. I feel like being drunk just shows who you really are instead of changing who you are. It just shows who you really are. But, you know, I'm going to end it right there because I feel like I'm going to go off on a tangent on that subject. So, yeah, I guess just comment or whatever, get this thing talking about what you guys think of this video. And let me know what you guys think, because I'm really curious. I'm actually genuinely curious about this kind of stuff. That's why I started this. But, yeah, if you have any opinions, you want to tell me I'm wrong or anything, you want to tell me you hate the way I look, by all means, please do it. But I will see you guys next time.